So I'm noticing
Personally,
the
I've been
price.
out of town. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
No, I've been out of town for the last week and a half, so I know a lot of. I've been working on a couple of. I mean, I've been doing paperwork for our listings and stuff. Brooke's been kind of feet on the ground here, but you know, I mean, the market's obviously shifting. People are negotiating now, and you know, that kind of stuff. We're kind of getting back to some sense of normalcy.
By the way, for those of you that are on the call that haven't been on recently, these calls are recorded and they are shared publicly on YouTube at this point. So whatever you say is going to be shared publicly. Okay?
Perfect.
So I'm noticing, you know, when you see in the multiple listing service that there are price adjustments, and you notice that there are anywhere from, you know, maybe $1,000 up to 10% or so. What you have to take into account is that's not all the listings changing it in the same day or week or whatever it is. That's a percentage, a small percentage of the total number of listings active. So if you're really interested, then you would do a MLS search either by geo area or by city or by development or neighborhood or street or whatever you want to do, and pull up all of the active listings and then change your MLS column to show the original list price and the current list price. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm driving at the moment, so I'm doing this from memory, but I think you can also add a column that shows the percentage of change. Am I right, Jeff?
Yep, you can. You can actually, if you just click on the widget in the on your dashboard, you can get, it'll actually give you that information, how much it changed and that sort of thing. So I could probably show that here if we go to the, if we want to share that. But you can look at, when you're looking at your widget, if you click on the price decreases, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it shows you. Okay, let's go there if you want. I can share my screen here and show you that. Let's go back here. And so this is a real easy way to get quite a bit of information when you just log into MLS. So let me see here. Where am I? Share screen. So can everybody see that screen? See the Market Watch?
Yeah.
Widget? Okay, so this is the entire residential market for the last 7 days. And we can customize this in a lot of different ways. You'll notice that I'm going to reset this to the full market. This is the full market. So you notice in the last 7 days, 965 new listings, 952 sold, 189 back on the market. That's another interesting stat. 790 pending, and look at that, 806 price increases. So if I want to see what those are, I can click on that. Can you see that okay? So you can now see how much the price changed. You can also sort this by some condo name, right? And it will tell you by neighborhood. You can see that in Abaco Bay, there were 3 price changes in the last 7 days, one down 6.3, the other down 4.2, and the other down. So you can kind of zero in on a neighborhood and see what's going on. See in Admiral Isle, there was a price change down 2%. So you can look at the actual, you can also run an MLS report and add the change and change info fields to any of your reports. But you can look at this really quickly and again, sort it by sub-condo name. You can sort it by geo. You can sort it by the amount of the price increase too. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this information. But one of the things, you know, if you're farming a neighborhood, one of the things you want to do is you want to have, you'd be able to take a look at this information, once every few days, look at it and see what's happening in that neighborhood. And to customize it, all you have to do is go into this screen. It looks very much like your search screen. You can look at single family homes. You can look at Gulf access. You can look at various things here. You can look at just all Naples areas, and you can look at prices over $1 million. And then you hit save. And now it'll show you in your widget here what's happening in the last 7 days in Naples for homes priced over $1 million. 76 new listings, 63 sold. Look at 57 price decreases in this part of the market. And we could go look at these, but you can see these are all priced over $1 million, and these are all the price decreases that happen now. This may have gone pending after a decrease, but it's a pretty interesting way to take a look at the market, see what's happening in the market. The other thing that's kind of interesting, if we go back to the dashboard and we take a look, now remember, we've got this set to prices over $1 million, and I think this back on market is something that's fairly significant. You have to go, I think I have to go to a little different screen to look at the days on market, or I can just add the days on market. That would be easy to do.
Jeff, while you're doing that, again, I'm driving. Can you tell me, is it possible to add a column?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. So for example, if we wanted to narrow it down to waterfront properties, I don't know that you can select the criteria for waterfront, but maybe in the results, you could sort them by waterfront. And
You
those that have.
We just added a column here called days on market. So you can see that in this particular segment, most of these properties that were back on market had been off the market for some time. If you look at it for the overall market, you'll see about 60 or 70% of it was less than 20 days. So, but yes, you can do that. And you can also mark in your search. We could look at customizing, and we were just looking there at properties over $1 million. But if you wanted to just look at waterfront, yes, then you could do that, and then that would limit your search to just waterfront properties. Okay, you can get fairly flexible with this. This is a pretty comprehensive search. It's only really, you can do 1 day, 3 days, one day, 3 days, or 7 days. I like to look at it over 7 days because it's kind of tough to look at it every day. But again, waterfront properties, 31 new listings, 36 sold, and 16 price decreases. Pretty interesting there. These are properties over $1 million that are listed as waterfront units. So is this helpful to anybody? I mean, is this something you can see how you could go in there and get a pretty good feel for the market or for your farm area in a couple of minutes? And one of the things we've been talking about a lot on the James Shaw calls are that this is now becoming very much a skill-based market. And those that really know their market and can discuss it freely with your customers and send them, appropriate information, you're going to be considered more of a market expert. And whereas before all you had to do was raise your hand or put a stake in the ground and you could sell a property. Now it's, as Sam mentioned, it's quite a bit more involved. There's more work involved. We're back to, really doing more to get our customers out there. And one of the key things is getting them out there at the right price. If they're not priced right now, you can see that they're starting to sit a little bit. Any
Yeah,
comments?
I think one of the things that I would encourage agents to do is, if you're farming an area, let's say, and yeah, I oftentimes use the area of Pelican Bay as an example, or maybe beachfront condos on Marco Island, is set up an auto email search and notify yourself when there's a change in the market, whether it's active, pending, closed, terminated, withdrawn, expired. And you'll get price changes along with that. And that's where you command knowledge of the local market or the neighborhood or development market. Is if you're, say you're farming an area, even if you could drill it down even to a high rise on the beach as an example, you want to make sure that you get the same notifications that your customers are perhaps seeing on their own. They may have registered on another portal someplace else, and they're getting an email notification, and they may be as up to date or more up to date if you're not using those tools.
So if you have a listing, that's another thing. It's pretty easy to set up an auto email for your neighborhood or for a radius around your listing, so that every day when there's a price change or something goes pending, something comes on the market, you'll get an update in your email. So you can constantly keep surveillance of what's going on in the area around your listing, just the same as you could do that for the farm area.
And that's an opportunity for a conversation either with a seller or a potential seller, or with potential buyers. Let's say if I've got a buyer who's looking for a beachfront condo and there's nothing on the market today, and suddenly one comes on the market, I want the instant notification, and I want to pick up the phone and let my client know, or send them a text or whatever it is, that there's a listing that matches their criteria.
Yeah, also you can set up a search for your customer and make it a concierge search. So it'll come to you first. You can look at it like the customers are looking for a particular view or a particular amount of upgrading or the taste of those upgrades. It can come to you first before it goes automatically to your customer, and you can look at it and decide, hey, this really isn't them. I'm not going to bore them with sending them properties that I know, is not what they're looking for. Especially with updating, upgrades. Those are things that are a little bit harder to zero in on in a search. And so you can send anything new in your market or your area for that customer to you on a concierge search, check in the concierge box, and it will come to you before it goes to the customer, which I used that a lot when I was an agent, because people were saying, I don't want to do a lot of updating. I want one that's already updated. Well, there's not really any switch in the MLS that says it's updated. You have to kind of look at it. You can search the description for the word updated, but other than that, you have to kind of make a judge for yourself whether that property is, acceptable to that customer. So I found that to be very useful.
That's a good point. If you had somebody who said, I want a coach home that has a private elevator, you can set that in the search criteria. If they said, I want to have the Fairmont floor plan, well, there's not a way to search for the Fairmont floor plan in development, but if you know the square footage range, let's say it's 1800 to 1850, you could do a search criteria for that community or that development or that neighborhood or that project and put the square footage range in, and it would most likely would filter that down. But as Jeff pointed out, if someone wants the a criteria that's not searchable, like upgrades, then getting that notification to yourself first, looking at the photographs, and then sharing that information with the potential buyer, or sharing that information with a seller to say there's new competition, or the neighbor just dropped their price by such and such a percent. That's command of the market and understanding what the market conditions are, what's happening there.
Yeah, I use Concierge myself. This is Sam. I use it for, I can't tell you how many I've set up, but it's for those reasons. It works great. If no one's, if someone's not doing it, I highly recommend it, even if just for yourself to get used to it. I have some set up for myself and customers, so I think it's a great tool.
Customers, Sam, you don't want to send customers properties in their portal that they're not interested in. And their first question is going to be, well, why are you sending me this? I find that to be, if you search it first and say, well, this isn't really what they're looking for, you can just delete it from the search and not send it to your customer. And so I think especially if you have, customers with particular needs and wants, it's part of your credibility not to send them things that, they're going to be like, why are they sending me this? So there you go. So I got a couple of other charts here.
Another thing that you could set up is an automatic search for new construction listings.
Yeah, any field in the MLS that you want to search on. Where it gets tough is, levels of updating or landscaping, or you can actually, if people say I want a southerly view, you can limit your search to southerly views. Although sometimes that information is not particularly accurate in the MLS. It should be, but as you get down to more minutia, you may have to look at this stuff yourself, and rather than just rely on the search. I got a couple of charts, Mark, that we didn't look at last week. If you'd like, I can bring them up.
That'd be great.
Let's see what we got here. All right, let's see if we can share that. Show all open screens. Where's me and my fancy share technique here sometimes doesn't always produce the one that I want. Why can't I share? Okay, I think I got it now. Can everybody see that, the charts? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger if I can. Whoops. Thanks. All right, hold on. Stop share. Okay, you see that a little better? So this is a series of new charts that I've been producing every month because we've been comparing month over month 21 to 22, and obviously 21 was a huge year. So sometimes those comparisons aren't particularly fair. Bring this up a little bit. So this is a chart that looks at the last 14 months of activity for properties in Collier County over $1 million. And it's one that I put it out on Facebook so you can share these with your customer. But the point is that, you can start to look at trends, and the light green is properties for sale. So since really December and January, look at the number of properties that are for sale over $1 million in Collier. And then also the dark green is the number of actual sales. The red line is pendings, and the blue line is new listings. So obviously you can't, look at every point in every line here, but what you're seeing, I think, is what everybody's telling me is happening in the market. There's more opportunities out there, and the number of new listings is still quite a bit. If I look at if I draw a straight line across here, there's still the number of new products, new listings coming in the market is much, much higher. And now what we're starting to see is, if you look at the sales in May of 21, the sales in May of 22 are slightly higher. So the market has actually gone through a dip based on low supply, and now is starting to come back with more sales than we did last year. And last year was one of our best years. So even though we talk about the market shifting, it's not shift. The word shift is not necessarily the word bad. You know, we tend to think of a shift. This book was written back when everything was crashing. And, you know, when you could get a loan if you could fog a mirror. And now it's much more difficult to get financing. And you'll find that most people have equity in their property and have to have, you know, legitimacy in order to get financing. So the quality of the market and the amount of equity in the market has gone up a great deal, well more than what it was back in 2007 and 8 and 9 when we were struggling with dropping valuations. So we did a little blurb a couple of weeks ago on stop Googling bubble. There is, you know, most of the experts we see are not mentioning the word bubble, but they are mentioning that the market becoming more balanced and adjusting to an increase in inventory and a number of price decreases that are generated by properties not selling at these extravagantly high prices. So pricing your property is very important. And, you know, it no longer can you say, well, my neighbor just sold for 1.2. So what do you think about 1.8? Well, I don't know. There isn't anything particularly different about your house than the one that sold at 1.2. And they were saying, well, let's put it on there. There's nothing else out there. Let's see what we get. And I'm thinking that strategy is starting to fade a little bit, and that you really have to be, you know, in a great conversation with your customer about what the pitfalls are of overpricing. And even if they want to overprice, maybe you want to get an agreement with them right in the listing contract or some agreement that says, look, we'll put this out there for 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. And if we don't get activity, that's the market talking to us and saying, hey, I don't think so. So if you can get in a dialogue with your customer about what you can do if you start at what you believe is a higher price, obviously always the customer's decision, but it's also your decision to say, I don't think so. I don't know how many of you listen to James Shaw in the morning, but they've got a number of MREA, millionaire producers that are on there and that are sharing. And many of them are saying, you know, I'm going on these listing appointments now, and I'm hearing, you know, I think this should be priced at 1.2, and the customer says, well, we're not taking anything less than 1.5. And maybe that's a clue to you to say, wait a minute, these people have unrealistic expectations, and maybe I don't want to play in that sandbox. Because if you're, you know, when you put a listing out there and you put Mark Benson on it or Sam Abar, you're putting your name out there also on the line. And if I open up one of Mark's listings and I go, oh, Mark, what was he thinking when they put this out there? You know, 20% higher than the last sale, which was a month ago. So I think you ought to be careful now in this market that you believe you have a reasonable price and reasonable expectations on your seller to say, hey, why are we thinking this way? The market is moving and your thinking is not. So just talk to me about that. See what you all think about that.
I think the important thing to take into consideration is hyper local market. So when we think about, as you said before, about prices becoming more realistic or the market becoming more balanced, we're still at about a 3-month average days on market, if I recall from the last time I looked. Is that right, Jeff?
It's actually a little bit lower, but
Depends on the price range, yeah.
correct, yeah. But we're starting to see it increase. And again, as you point out, this is a neighborhood specific. This is all properties in Collier over $1 million. So obviously that's, going to vary quite a bit from Naples Park to Port Royal.
Right.
So I think
So,
it's still hyper local.
yeah. I think, this information is helpful. I think it's good for newsletters and things of that nature. But if you're farming to a particular neighborhood, Jeff, are you able to do those kinds of reports by geo area or by development?
Absolutely. Yeah, if you have a particular newsletter that you're sending out and you want some more drilled down data, I can certainly get that for you. Wonder if I click this, does that switch to Lee County on your view, or do I need to reshare it? Can you see this as Lee County now, or do I need to reshare it as Lee County?
I'm still driving.
Sam, help me out. Can you see Lee County now, or is it still showing Collier?
I'm trying to see. I had to zoom in. Hold on. What does it say? Oh, I see Lee County. Never mind. I see Lee County.
Okay, good. So it's switched. All right. So this is Lee County, and Lee County is behaving somewhat differently than Collier County with prices over $1 million, and that somehow is, I think that's a lot of it's new with new construction. So I think that that's important to note, that some of these areas that started a year or so ago that were in the high 800s, 700 and 800s, are now up over $1 million, and that they're now considered more of a luxury listing than they were. And you've got some beautiful neighborhoods up there. What is it? Blue, Vista Blue, and all the various sections of the lake. So you're starting to see more properties. Look at the number of properties coming on the market in Lee County over $1 million since January. And look at what that number is the last couple months over all of last year. So and look at the number of new listings, even though it's crested a little bit in the last 2 or 3 months. Look how much more, many more new listings than there were. Pendings are starting to fluctuate a little bit. We're starting to see a little drop in pendings, and that's what we expect is happening. That things aren't going under contract quite so quickly. But look at the number of closed sales, still increasing pretty significantly from January up through May. And now look at May, we're much higher than we were a year ago. So even though last year was considered one of our very best years ever in real estate, we're starting to see some increases in volume and activity over last year. So the over $1 million market, the luxury market, is behaving a little bit differently than the overall market. And I think it's important, if you have customers that are looking in this range, that they understand that, hey, there's a lot more choices out there, and we're starting to see a lot of new activity. So if you look at it's still called a seller's market, but we're seeing 4 months, 3 and 4 months of inventory. We consider 6 in our market a little more toward balance. So we're headed in that direction. And if you look at the little activity chart down there, look at the green arrows, current versus same quarter a year ago, current versus same month a year ago. Everything's up, right? So that's a Lee County luxury market is certainly thriving even over last year. And again, I think it's important that you share this information with the customers in your database, your luxury customers, so they understand that there's still a lot of opportunities here. It's not like it's all been sold, or that everything's selling at substantially overpriced what it was last year. We're starting to see median prices stabilize. So it's a pretty good, not all shifts are bad. And this is a shift in a market that's got a lot of equity and still 60% cash, so it's not quite so sensitive to the mortgage rates as other markets are. So I think we're really got some good news. What about the sellers that you talked to a year ago and they said, I'd love to sell, but where will I go? Well, hello, Mr. Seller. Remember we talked a year ago and you said, where would you go? Now look at where you can go. So there's opportunity maybe to reconnect with people that were reluctant to list a year ago, that maybe have a different mindset today. So I put this stuff out there on the Facebook pages. You're welcome to there. I usually put them out as JPEGs. This is a PDF, but you can share them pretty easily. And again, it's, you know, if you're doing a newsletter or you're just doing an update to your customers once a month from this data, there's a good story to tell here. Any comments or questions?
You know, what comes to mind is, what if you got a phone call from the media, from a reporter asking for you to quote on what's happening in the marketplace? Do you have the information ready to share with them, or could you pull it together quickly?
Yeah, our media training that I went through when I was, president of the board says it's not required that you answer. If a reporter or someone doing an article calls you, it's not required that you answer right away. You know, rather than put you on the spot, you can say, gee, I'd love to talk with you. Can I call you back in 15 minutes or 20 minutes? Because they're usually on a story and they want a quote or they want information, but don't let them put you on the spot and trying to draw conclusions when you may not have this information in front of you. So if someone calls you from the media, I think you got to be careful, unless you have the information at your fingertips, to say, hey, you know, thank you so much for thinking of me, Mark. You know, I know you got a deadline. What's your deadline? Oh, okay, 5 o'clock tonight. Okay, well, let me get some things together here. I'll call you right back. Then you can put these charts out and get some of this information out, or go to your little widget in the MLS, and you can, you know, be quoted as a source. And those don't hurt you any when it comes to credibility with the market.
Yeah, thank you for making those, Jeff. You know, we really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, and again, if you have a particular need, this is easy stuff. We have the login, and it's easy stuff to do. I mean, I can, you know, now that I know how it all works, if you say, you know, send me Pelican Bay, or send me Port Royal, or send me, you know, anything, you know, 3 million to 4 million, I'll be glad to do that for you. It doesn't take very long. You know, give me an hour or two if I'm not, you know, near a computer, or if I'm not able to drop everything and do it. But I'm happy to supply this for you if you want to work on some farming.
Thank you.
Certainly. So what's everybody, I mean, the quote from Gary Keller the other day was, you know, use this time, which maybe isn't quite as frenetic as it was a year ago. Use this time to, you know, understand the market and be prepared for the, you know, for the future, because we're certainly not in a situation where anybody's predicting a bubble or a crash. Obviously, the economic situation with gas prices and food prices and all that it's going to impact real estate. But overall, the comment the other day was that real estate has outperformed inflation in almost every market and almost every down market. That real estate has outperformed you know, other things, stocks and so forth. So you may see a flight from the market to more real estate, especially now that we have more listings and more opportunities. We may see some, you know, some improvements to the market. But, you know, again, you know, the watchword is it's a skill-based market. And those that were just, you know, fortunate enough to get a listing or get a few listings and aren't prepared to discuss the market with people and don't have the data, I don't think they're going to fare as well. So a lot of the tools that we have and a lot of the information we share hopefully will help you add some arrows to your quiver and give you the information that you can discuss with your people in your database and people at open houses. We're kind of back to doing more marketing now and more open houses and more things that, maybe we didn't have to do a year ago. So there you go.
So Jeff, another thought comes to mind is the statistics tab in MLS. Are you able to share your screen and go into that for a moment?
Yes, I am. It's easy for you to say. Let's see what we got here. I gotta go back and bring MLS up. There we go. I should be able to share that now. There we go. Okay, so there's the main screen there, and there is a stats tab. And you really can get, again, a lot of data out of this, but you have to play with it a little bit because it's listed. There's a listed series of things that you can pull. But if I wanted to look at, let's see, I wanted to look at, even if I just want to look at active listings, I can generate a lot of information fairly quickly here. And this is January. This is, you can look at long periods of time, and you can see over time how listings were in 19 were high, January 2020, and then they cascaded down as we, now you can also, go into this and add a second statistic in there. You can control your range. You can say you want it by month, and you can add a second stat in there, which might be
Days on market or number of listings or
days to sell average. It's crunching the numbers as we speak here. The problem you run into a little bit is sometimes your graph gets, the range, on the graph gets a little bit wacky.
the other thing that I discovered the other day is if near the top there, it says data. So if you want the exact number on the left side.
Whoops. I don't know how useful that graph is, Mark.
Well,
right, you can.
It looks like the days on market exceeded the number, but there's.
But look what you can do now. You can go in here and look at your data points. So as we look at the last year, right, we can see that, the number of listings, let's say, we said that in January 2021, we had 14,000 listings. And in January of 2022, we had 9,700. So you can see that the problem we ran into was we had a tremendously diminishing inventory until we started back after January 22. And look, now we're coming back. We're not quite where we were in January 2021, but we are now ahead of June 2021. And here's your days on market. You can see that they went from what we were very much used to, 90 days. And, they've come all the way down to now they're 18. Now, again, this is average. So obviously there are, for those of you that like to play with Excel and the graphs in Excel, you can export this data right over there and draw yourself a little chart.
If I recall correctly, you can also narrow this down to geo area. So
Correct.
for example, if you wanted to do Pelican Bay or Marco Island, you could, you can run these reports on any of the data points.
There you go. So you can look at all Naples areas, and you can generate it down. You can look at, it's not quite as defined as a search, but we could look at Pelican Bay. We could spell it. We could look at it.
Or just NAO4.
Okay. So I've got those things in there.
And here again, you could put by price range if you wanted to just do statistics on $1 million and above. You could do that as well. Although most everything in Pelican Bay is probably going to be $1 million and above at this point, other than some of the condos on Tanbark. And
so then I can go back and generate that. Looks like a scary movie. You can see the listings were in active number of listings are in green, and the days to sell average looks like a bad trip to the dentist. But you can go to the data chart and it kind of calms it down a little bit, showing that, we go all the way back. You can go back 3 years, 5 years, whatever you want to go back. But as you start to see, when we started January 2021, there was 113 listings in Pelican Bay, and the average days on market was 95. Now look at it. There's a third, 47 listings, maybe a little less than a third, but you can start to see that the listings went way down, and it really stayed down. You had 90 in March, and then you're back down to 47. And the days on market is kind of reacting a little bit to the market. So you can actually use this package, but you have to play with it a little bit to kind of figure out exactly what types of charts you can put out. You can go back to your chart, and you can do different types of, you can do lines.
Well, when the neighbor's monthly report comes out and gives statistics, sometimes it'll talk about areas, I don't know whether it's west of 41 or beachfront or central or north, whatever it is. Sometimes the reports will go into a little detail like that. But if you want to talk about a development or a particular area, you don't necessarily have to rely on the neighbor report. You can come in and find a story to tell about a given community. And that's noteworthy, or that's newsworthy, that people, the broad market's one thing, but people are generally interested in their own neighborhood. And that's what they're looking to you for.
So, like I said, this is available to you. You can obviously print these things. You can zero them in. And then of course we've talked a little bit about InfoSparks. The only thing about InfoSparks is it will not allow you to put multiple data points out. You have to look at one thing at a time, but you can also zero down to price ranges, neighborhoods, that sort of thing. And why are we spending this time on this? The reason I think is again, we're going back to a skills-based market where the people that have the knowledge and can discuss fluently what's going on in the neighborhood or in the market are much more likely to be successful at listing presentations, rather than going and telling how many units you've sold and how great you are. If you have a good handle on the market and you can show the sellers where the market is and where they need to be, that's much more valuable to them than how many you've sold or how many your company sold. But it's not a bad idea to have that information, but I think people are more interested in the now, because of what we've come through since we went into the pandemic.
The other thing that comes to mind is the personality profiles, as we call them, DISC personality profiles. So a C personality, which is the person who likes the content, is the engineer type. They like all these charts and graphs and numbers. The D personality is more of the direct person. Give me the bottom line. So you may look at these numbers and then put together the bullet points that a D personality likes. Or you might put together a narrative about what's happening in a community or particular building that the S personality might like. So you have to sort of develop your marketing pieces that appeals to the different types of personalities that are out there. And so some people will, the D personality is going to gloss right over the charts and graphs. They're looking for bottom line, give me the bullet points.
So again, we can help you with this. If you're doing a listing presentation, or if you're wanting to put out a newsletter or something like that, you want to know a little bit more about what you could put out and what kind of charts you could put out. This might be a better.
And Jeff, you might mention the disclosure language that needs to accompany reports.
Yeah, the MLS, wow, look at the months of inventory in Naples. Yikes. That's amazing. So, yeah, there's language that you can put into your newsletter or your chart that basically just is a disclaimer that this information is pulled from the MLS for certain periods of time, and it's not, you know, meant to be information that about what you sold or what you listed. It's general market information, so that you don't get into a situation where you send somebody a postcard and they go, well, you didn't sell all those. No, I'm just using data from the MLS for a period of time. And that's the disclaimer you can put in there. So,
and then with all forms of advertising, we include the language, each Keller Williams office is independently owned and operated. That's part of your
that's pretty much
branding guidelines that are mandatory.
So I think the bottom line is you got to know your numbers today, and you got to be able to speak intelligently about a neighborhood and about the overall market, and try to become the neighborhood expert and the area expert, so that when people need information, when your customers are looking for information, then they know where they can go, and they know that you'll be prepared to talk to them about it. You know, I think the gist that I get from all of this, especially the last couple of years, is that your future's in your database, and that if you're not talking to your database, maybe somebody else is. So I think we have to really, I know that we've all built our businesses differently, but I think what the message that, you know, Gary Keller is sending out is, you know, the future of your success in your business is in your database, and reaching out and touching your database with information. And, you know, we have a great amount of information here that you can make a care call with. Just calling people now and seeing how they're doing in the economy and what the gas prices are, how they're affecting them. And, you know, if a real estate conversation breaks out, great, you got the information there, and you can leave them with some value.
I think the other thing from the pivot shift calls that you're mentioning is the market of 3 months ago is not today's market. And in the past, you might have been able to say, well, the last 6 months, the trend has been such and such. Being current with market data is going to position you well with clients and customers, that perhaps 90% of the licensees in our area have no clue as to what's happening. And you are the person that does have the information at your fingertips.
And, you know, if there's some information that you want, like these charts and bar graphs and everything that we came out with were a result of people saying, gee, it's great to compare May of 22 with May of 21. And that gives us only one picture. It doesn't tell us what's happened over the last 60 to 90 days. And, you know, it's an interesting observation that we need to look at the trends now. And now the trends are really, I think they're in many ways very positive for the real estate market, in that we have, you see you see as many, when you start seeing as many price reductions as new listings over the last 7 days, 965 new listings and 809 price decreases. Those numbers have been running fairly close. And, to me, that's 965 new listings and 809 newly positioned listings. So the two together are new inventory that's being added into the market. And when we look at the amount of the price, these are not little price increases. These are big price increases. Many of them, if you average that, you probably see there's one that went way down, but you probably see 3, 4, 5, 6%, some 10, and not just little adjustments to get to the top of the Zillow queue. So anyhow, hopefully this has been a good thing for you to see how can I stay up with the market? How can I be knowledgeable quickly as to what's going on in the market? And we're trying to put out data and throw it on the Facebook page as we go along to make sure you have current information that you can send out to your customers.
Before we end the call, Patricia, would you pause the recording?